This video contains heavy spoilers for Story Modes episodes 1 through 3 and light spoilers for episode 4. For episode 4, I mention the name of the new region, a location in that region, and provide visuals of that location. I do what I can to limit episode 4 spoilers, but please use your own best judgment. This is a follow-up to my video from May 17, 2021, where, in anticipation of a potential summer release of episode 4, I asked the question of where Black Rock region would connect on the map. I speculated that it would connect to Pleasant Valley. I still believe so, and I'll explain why in a bit. But there is a new wrinkle. In Episode 4's Black Rock region, careful observers and intrepid explorers may have observed this sign at the blocked bridge location. To avoid more spoilers than is necessary, I won't show you the regional map. I'll just tell you that it's located in the south centralmost part of the map, and you can take it from there. The day of Episode 4's launch, folks took to social media to declare, "Mystery solved. Black Rock's connected to Mountain Town." Let's just get this out of the way right now. That sign solves no mysteries. In the name of fun and logic, I'm going to double down on my previous theory that Black Rock region is connected to Pleasant Valley. This time I'll incorporate story mode along with my prior reasoning. Like I said, this sign solves no mysteries. 3 reasons. First, assuming the sign's accuracy, all this does is tell us that Milton is that way. Okay, good to know. But it doesn't provide anything to allow for even an attenuated inference that Mountain Town is the next region over. Note that it's missing any information about the distance to Milton. That wouldn't mean much to us. The game does track distance traveled in kilometers, but I sure haven't given much prior thought to one region's distance to another based on any metric other than travel time in hours, specifically before dark. Still, without that information on the sign, it's tough to claim that Milton is any particular distance from here. Second, by telling us that Milton is this way, it really just tells us what we already know, that you can reach Milton from Black Rock or Black Rock from Milton via roadway. If that weren't true, I imagine the person who sent this prison bus from somewhere through Milton to head out of Milton to Black Rock Penitentiary would have felt pretty silly, right? Third, speaking of through Milton, Hobbs has already told us, well, why don't I let him tell you for himself? Take it away, Hobbs.
It just happened. All the lights went out, damn bus lost control and crashed into the tunnel. Brought the roof down on us. Barely crawled out of there alive. Hell, some didn't. No way out of here now. The roads are all blocked. Hey, you think they put me on that bus for my good behavior? That's the bus to Black Rock.
Black Rock?
Yeah, you know. Black Rock Federal Pen, where they put the worst of the bad people. The bad people, bad people. People too bad for the mainland. It's like an old penal colony or some damn thing. They know there's no easy way for us to get back.
Let me just go ahead and concede that I am taking Hobbs' word for it when he says that they were heading to Black Rock, that they crashed into the tunnel as they were traveling to Black Rock, and that his language, it's an old penal colony or some damn thing, suggests that he's newly sentenced to Black Rock and or just hasn't been there before. Important if you're thinking, well, maybe they were heading back from the penal colony. Certainly a possibility worth addressing. We've addressed it, but we are taking Hobbs' word for it. That's not without risk. We're also adopting the game's logic, and logic generally. Towards the former, who knows what retcons could occur later. I bet there will be some minor changes, gaps filled in, what have you, because there is a lot of emphasis on not spoiling future content and leaving Hinterland some wiggle room. That means gaps. There are also some gaps in the story that could be patched up over time. For example, Astrid never tells Will where they're going.
I need your help. There's an isolated community in the northern part of Great Bear. Someone there is very sick.
Not even by the time they're crashing down over Great Bear has Astrid specified their location. Will has no clue. Kind of important for a pilot to know that, wouldn't you say? Grey Mother does this too, when she says,
"Not the only way through, but my only way through."
Or,
"The old quake closed down most of the roads in and out of town."
what does that mean?
No questions.
Some of that is for the story, some of that is for our and the developers' benefit as respective players and developers of an unfinished game. I think, or at least hope, some of that will be plugged in later. The prison bus and Hobbs are our best clues that Black Rock awaits somewhere past that collapsed tunnel. Remember what Hobbs said. They arrived from the mainland. Landing where? Arriving how? We don't know. But the prison bus traveled from somewhere, We may not figure that out anytime soon, but a reasonable guess based on Mountain Town's present terrain is that they traveled by way of this tunnel past Spruce Falls Car Bridge. Mountain Town's currently accessible roadway begins here and ends at the crashed prison bus. We believe that PV awaits beyond this collapsed tunnel. Well, what about this side? A few months ago, I did a video on Mountain Town's semi-trailer truck. It's the one you see in the distance near the cave to Mystery Lake. The semi area is off map, but you can access it with a little bit of fancy footwork. I'll spare you this time, but definitely check out that video if you want to visit it for yourself. It's a bit of a schlep, but eventually it does take you here. There's a bridge, roadway, the semi, and down this way is an inaccessible tunnel just waiting to have some region connected to it. As tempting as it would be to believe that it's black rock, it doesn't line up with what we currently know. On the other side, there's no roadway. Pending maybe? But based on our bearing getting down here, assuming I kept it, this unfinished area would eventually lead to Spruce Falls Car Bridge. So if the position of the bus suggests anything, it's that the bus passed through here, over the Spruce Falls Car Bridge, into Mountain Town, then to the tunnel. If Hobbs and the bus are the best clues that Black Rock awaits somewhere beyond this tunnel, then we need to figure out where that tunnel leads. This brings us to Astrid. Let's hear from Hobbs again in relevant part.
What did you do to my friend?
Your scarf lady found us while the school was burning. She tried to help get them out, but it was already too late. Smoke already did him in. She fought like hell to try and get him out. She stuck a knife or a screwdriver, I'm not sure, into one of our guys. It cut me, too. And then ran out into the blizzard. We caught up, but she's a fiery one. Still had the knife. Yeah, got me real good, you can see. We tried to stop her, but she ended up on the bus. Somehow, she was small enough to crawl through the crushed part. She got away. Whatever good it's gonna do her.
If you so much as hurt...
We barely clipped her wings. She wasn't hurt too bad.
Not hurt too bad?
All right, she was bleeding. A bit. No way out of here now. The roads are all blocked. You'll never find her.
Astrid squeezed through this tunnel, and we're later told that Molly found her here. Thanks to the crows. Another point of confusion worth clearing up is how Molly would have heard the crows from the farmhouse.
You said we're in your
She
house.
never said that she was at the farmhouse. She said that she was out hunting.
I was out hunting. Came across you in the snow, buried. You've been out there for hours, maybe even days. Nearly dead.
Thank you for finding me.
Name's Molly. And don't thank me. Thank the crow.
Crow?
Yeah, crow. Or maybe a raven. Damn bird wouldn't shut up. Led me straight to you.
I ran into some trouble on the other side of that tunnel.
Bit of an aside, but Hobbs told us that the roads are all blocked now.
No way out of here now. The roads are all blocked.
The prison bus crashed into the tunnel. They head into Milton. They corralled town residents into the schoolhouse, locked them out, and didn't let them out when the building caught fire. That's Hobbs' version anyway.
This is just terrible.
Astrid arrives and tries to free them, to no avail, digging some prisoner with a screwdriver in the process. This fellow, maybe?
What happened here?
Then she flees. She encounters the remaining prisoners, including Hobbs, back at the bus, with just enough time to scrawl one word in blood on the back floor of the bus where Will definitely look. She shanks Hobbs, then flees through the tunnel. Hobbs ends up here at Paradise Meadows.
That's a bad sign.
How would Hobbs know that all the roads out of Milton are blocked? Like he traveled all the way back from where they drove, say Spruce Falls, with a knife in his side.
No questions.
Fine, moving on. Where Mountain Town's roadways are linear, Pleasant Valleys are, well, we'll just say mostly linear. Linear with an asterisk. The only roadways are here, at the end of the road, where we think Astrid emerged. Also, if Hinterland's looking for a new name for this location, Astrid's Emergence has real potential. What do you think? Through Thompson's Crossing, over Heartbreak Bridge, into the long curve. This roadway ends abruptly. Back at the end of the road, there is a fork that will take you past the derelict cabins over towards Point of Disagreement. But that only takes us further towards Timberwolf Mountain. That would support a Black Rock, Pleasant Valley, Ash Canyon connection. Wouldn't mind that at all, personally. But it wouldn't support Mountain Town as a connection point. But let's head back to the long curve. In the past, and we're talking pre-Steadfast Ranger, you could maneuver off the map, on the other side of Long Curve, and find a segment of road off the map. Or I guess, under the earth. No idea why it was removed with Steadfast Ranger. Maybe they changed their mind, maybe because we found it, but it's not off the table and it's screaming to be connected with some region. Long Curve's also the only feasible place that the bus could have ended up in the existing world given its current heading. This is the same off-map location in Fury than Silence. The road is still missing. I wouldn't have expected otherwise prior to Blackrock being introduced to Survival. For thoroughness' sake, let's acknowledge that the Ep3 opening cinematics end of the road looks much different than Survival's end of the road or even Ep3's end of the road outside of the cinematic. Birch trees, cars, an actual tunnel, major differences. But if Hinterland's design team taking liberties with a location for sake of telling a story means that it can't be the same location, well, then this isn't Coastal Highway.
What the hell?
Because I don't see any whales or ships here, do you? And that whole new Aurora-reliant branch of Cinder Hills that was added to Survival with Episode 3? Well, that's just a coincidence. Like Astrid being found in PV near a collapsed roadway that just happens to line up with Mountain Town. Just a coincidence. Don't get me wrong. I'm not viscerally opposed to Black Rock connecting to Mountain Town. It just doesn't line up with what we already know, and a sign with an arrow pointing to a location is hardly dispositive as to its proximity to that location. Especially here, because this is the first sign of its kind, and we can't draw any inferences based on other signage to glean insight into the Great Bear Ministry of Transportation's working logic. Reminder, we know very little about Great Bear Island's relationship to the mainland. Here's a review of what we currently do know. At the beginning of Episode 1 in Jackrabbit Remote Transport's hangar, Will remarks,
Great Bear Island. Dad used to fly there all the time. He said it used to be beautiful. Not much reason to go there these days, since the quakes and all.
Grey Mother also refers to the quakes in her explanation that the region's thoroughways are mostly inaccessible.
The old quake closed down most of the roads in and out of town. That was years ago.
Worth noting that most just means most, not all. It doesn't inherently mean that one specific route, say down here near the semi, is necessarily inaccessible. There could have been 9 roads out of town before the quakes. Now with the other tunnel closed, maybe this is the last road out, just unimplemented. Speaking of Grey Mother, she has a few pointed observations to share about Great Bear's relationship to the mainland.
You keep calling me a mainlander. Why?
It's what you are, isn't it? From the mainland, an outsider. You don't really belong here, do you?
Okay, but you sound bitter about it.
We lost everything in the collapse. People didn't realize how dependent we'd become. Some were fine with it. Others didn't want the scraps from your table. Created deep rifts in families, communities, scars that never healed. The mainland had become our lifeline, and it was suddenly cut. And so, we suffered.
And mainlanders.
I guess I don't know much about that history.
I'm not not surprised. You mainlanders have always been focused on your own story. Only interested in Great Bear when it had something to give you. If you can't cut it down or dig it out of the ground, what use is it to you?
And we've already heard Hobbes allude to mainland Canada treating Great Bear like the English crown once treated Australia, as a place to dump its undesirables. We also haven't heard much about the interconnectedness or interdependence of the regions on the island, current or former, or of any enduring outside significance beyond Mountain Town and Black Rock. I do get it. Rural areas can be quite insular. Born there, lived there, die there. Grey Mother sort of typifies that.
I've lived here all my life. Not much use for the outside world.
And we do get this bit about citizens seeking egress on the coast.
They said people were scared and were leaving for the coast. On foot. Foolish plan. But that's what they said to do. After the quakes. If there was ever another emergency, go to the coast and help will come.
But Mountain Town is one of only 2 regions with a petrol station. And the only region with a bank. I mean a credit union. Sorry, ARG. So it has at least some interregional significance, seemingly more than Grey Mother would have us believe. And it's at least significant enough to warrant having a sign to it posted in Black Rock. All of this is to ask, precisely who is this sign for? Mainlanders? Islanders? Someone else? Maybe visitors from before the quakes? Maybe it's us. A way to connect 2-story focal points is some kind of delayed payoff. Connecting the dots that Hobbes, what's the verb here? Do you lay dots? Line?
Looks like they've been frozen for a while. Poor long dark player.
Connecting the dots from Hobbes' tale back in episode 1. Good grief. Nobody disputes that a trip to Black Rock involves a trip through Mountain Town, but connects to it? Nobody ever said that. Full disclosure, my analysis is far from perfect. I focused more on the flimsy logic and jumped to conclusions than the geographic proximity that may place Black Rock in between PV and Mountain Town. Frankly, your guess is as good as mine. Furthermore, just because the bus had to travel a certain route doesn't mean we're committed to that same route on foot. But you can argue that for both regions. Also, I have indeed conflated proximity with accessibility. Even if it sits next to Mountain Town, I don't think we're getting to Black Rock from here. I've seen some of the folks pointing to this sign as dispositive, also speculating that the bridge will be unblocked in survival mode. I agree, in part. And you know what? I agree. At least in part, because you can get over the overturned trailer. I want to believe that Henderland included this on purpose because it's so easy, but who knows. However, I did say I agreed in part. I don't think they'll fully unblock the area because it is named Blocked Bridge, but I think it's a viable entry point. They need only add something to let us climb over this somehow. Also, this doesn't resolve the question of Milton or Mountain Town. I'll leave most of this for you to explore. But if you carefully examine the path out, especially returning to the trailer, you could see the gappy roadway is reminiscent of that area down near the semi. However, the curvy path, personally, it fits with what I'd imagine a trip up the long curve might look like. So I guess you could go either way. And of course, Hinterland need only change one minor detail, line of dialogue, or retcon a previous bit of canon, or what the hell, go full 3 ducks, in order to validate this analysis. That's why it's speculation. So it goes. Please know that my belief in a PV connection doesn't constitute a hope for it. Certainly not to the exclusion of other connections. Actually, I'd like for Black Rock to connect to Mountain Town and Pleasant Valley, because that would mean accessing a third of the known world without going through Mystery Lake. No shade to ML. I spent 300 of my first 500 days here on the 14+ year file. But it's been a major throwaway throughout the entirety of my 5 years on Great Bear Island, and this would make for an interesting change of pace. Come what may, I'll be happy regardless. Black Rock region is fantastic, and I look forward to experiencing it on survival. Whether you agree or disagree, I hope you've enjoyed this bit of speculation, And if I've managed to convince just one person to forego leaps of logic or jumps to conclusion down the road, this will have been a worthwhile pursuit. See you all around the bend. Cheers.